Welcome to the Lair, a place where interesting people you may know tell you things you didn't. So grab a chair and your favorite vice and get comfortable. There are no rules in the Lair, but there is Laura Babcock. You know her from TV, and she is not into media monogamy. Let's find out who else is in the Lair.
Are you expecting a political attack at us?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's in my future.
okay.
I
Here's the thing, and we are in the Lair, by the way. If you're just joining us, I should introduce my guest with Matt Jelly, who is an activist and a politician in waiting, as it sounds.
A musician,
An artist, all kinds of other stuff. And you know what? So a couple of points, because they're important points about the Lair. You can trust my overall laziness that I would never scrape up old content to run an attack ad. So trust me, once it's out there, I won't do more with it. But it is, it is the worldwide
We usually make fun of attack ads too.
We do too.
So.
But you know what other people choose to do with it, I cannot help that.
Is the podcast public domain?
It is.
Oh wow. Okay.
It rolls out there.
Okay.
People can do what they're going to do.
You can access it on YouTube and iTunes.
And in Reddit. And basically, this is a chat, and what people do, they'll do. We're not going to do anything to you, I promise. But that begs the question, though, Matt Jelly, is that I've booked lots of guests over the years, and we'll say just for this show, I won't talk about more credible shows where I book guests, but just for this one, which is kind of an unknown medium, right?
Yeah.
You're the only guest so far of the, say, 15 that have said they would do it, who asked me if there was an agenda to it, if this was a trick, if there was something else I was trying to do. What was the concern?
Well, I don't trust you, Laura. No.
You're not really kidding, but that's okay.
Kidding, but that's fair. That's fair.
No, I was sort of joking when I said, "Is this a trick?" You know, we on Twitter we joke back and forth, you and I. You know,
We do. We've come a long way from back in the day.
From back when I sent you an angry email about a year and a half ago
Yes,
about the
you did.
Lister block and
Yes,
your PR
and when I
work there,
sent out a mass, what do you guys think of my website? He says it sucks. I
You
hate
asked.
you. Go home.
But I didn't say I hate you. I never said that.
That was
I just
subsequent
said,
after I made a
all I
joke
said,
about
you sent out an email. You said Power Group has a new website. You asked what people thought of it. I never signed up for your list, your
Right, that's true.
mail list.
That's
and,
right.
And you were soliciting feedback, and I gave you
And I thank you.
unvarnished.
You did, and I said, thank you for the feedback. How are you doing? And you said something to the effect of, leave me alone. Have you destroyed any buildings lately, Laura?
I
said, "Do you have
actually,
any
I
good
think I
ones?"
remember it. I think I remember it almost word for word. It was,
Okay.
yes. Have you worked to destroy any more heritage buildings?
Was your question to me, and I said, do you know of any? I think
Do I
was
know
my
of any way?
response.
And then I think I just said, "Go away."
Go away. That's
How
right.
very polite of you.
Yeah, it was very
Now
nice.
please go away. So explain
But that's
to
what I get for unsolicited questions
Can
on
I
the
ask?
internet.
Because I don't really know.
Because you worked on the website? No.
No.
No, I don't give a shit what you think about the website. To each his own, okay? Whatever. What I want to
Have
know
you seen
is,
our new one, though? It kicks.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
why?
It's pretty good.
Why do you think that Laura destroyed heritage buildings?
Oh, well, it was, I guess, 2006 or so. We were both on either side of that sort of debate over the Lister block.
Okay.
I was right. Laura was wrong.
Okay. Explain to people what the debate was.
Okay, so at the time, I mean, in 2004, I did a presentation on the Lister block to council. I was planning and economic development, and that it had been sitting vacant for 10 years. Sort of, had 65 windows broken on the entire property. It was sort of my first foray in that sense, in heritage preservation or bylaw enforcement or any of those issues.
Sure.
A couple years later, then the city had sort of taken the direction of they were going to get involved in some sort of a solution at the Lister block. So it got pretty tense at a point where the owners, Labor's International Union of North America, the mayor at the time wanted it torn down. They were making statements in the press that it wasn't structurally sound, that it wasn't going to survive another winter. Where I'd never seen any sort of an engineer's report to suggest any of that. We were just taking the owner's words for that. So it got into it was one of the big sort of issues in Hamilton. Like you have a Red Hill debate, the stadium debate, the Lister block debate.
Yeah,
It was
we
one
talked
of
about
those.
the stadium debate a lot in our last Laircast.
Yeah, and so we had there was a day. I think it was in June it was probably June 2006, where there was a day where the docket was sort of filled with delegations on either side of.
Yeah, that was quite the day.
Yeah,
Just like-
I
there was
love
like
days like that at
35
City Hall.
delegations or something.
I wish days like that at City Hall would happen every week.
Yeah, it was
I
an
wish it
exercise
wasn't
in true
just
democracy.
those.
Yeah, it's true. It's
I wish it
fascinating.
wasn't those big catalyst sort of issues that make that happen. I wish we had a level of engagement at City Hall. I wish
sure.
that was the baseline. I wish there were, but and so I felt strongly that the building didn't need to be torn down, that it could be adaptively reused for not much more or even the same price as tearing down and rebuilding, which we found, I think, to be true. I don't agree with necessarily the city underwriting that kind of development. I never did. I mean, I asked council, the Lister block's falling apart, it's a building of value to the community, what are you doing about it? That was my original question. And Brian McCaddy and Sam Marula put forward a motion in 2004 for the city to get involved. And so, I mean, at that point, Laura was working in her capacity as a PR person working for LiUNA.
framing
And there
the
was the Build
discussion.
Lister Now campaign, which I found, I mean, to
I'm
be
glad
honest.
you remember the name of it. I forgot it. I'm impressed.
Well, it must have been good then, right?
Well, but here's what I find really interesting, Matt, is that the question that I saw at the time was, do we let this continue status quo, which was kind of like almost like a sinkhole downtown. It represented everything that the Hamilton downtown didn't want to be anymore.
Right.
And so myself, and when the client called and said, would you support this position? I said, yeah, because I support downtown development.
Right.
And if there is a move to recreate this, a replica that has some of the same attributes but gets the thing from a sinkhole to being built, to me that seemed pragmatic. And your position, which I also understand, was that, you know what, there are beautiful actual heritage elements that if we can preserve, we should.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting is at the beginning of this conversation, you framed it as a right and wrong sort of scenario. Is it a right and wrong, or is it a, we all have the same goal of getting a sinkhole derelict building that's
Right.
in the heart of our core fixed?
Neither one of us, I think, wanted to see the status quo. I didn't want to
Right.
see the building sit there. And actually, if,
So
you know,
different means
and
to
I
the
had said
same
it even
end,
at the
right?
time that if you were to ask me if the Lister block were going to sit, I think Lauren even asked me this at one point, if you were to see the Lister block sit vacant for another 10 years or see it torn down, I said, yeah, tear it down. We don't want a vacant building like that sitting in the center of our core.
Would you agree that the process of because really what it came down to was trying to frame the discussion for the city, which was, you know, the owners are willing to tear it and replicate it so that, you know, it creates the same kind of feeling but is affordable to do. And then there were other people like yourselves who said, no, we have to preserve the actual bricks and mortar because we think they're important. We think there's some elements there that are important. Do you agree that that process, that debate, that engagement ended up with what we have now, which is a Lister block that's going to be unveiled in its original form, but with city support?
Yeah, I think it did. I think it's, you know, anytime a big conflict like this happens, like Red Hill taught me a lot as an activist that, and I was absolutely.
Were you in the trees of Red Hill? How
No, I
active were
wasn't.
you?
I helped move food up to the tree sitters, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was definitely a sympathizer, but I mean, what that taught me about it. The second day that the Red Hill opened, I got a ride down the Red Hill with Larry Deanny, who you know we had argued so many times about the merits of the road or the merits of the project, and this is one thing that Larry pointed out that I found really instructive was that, you know, he said the road wouldn't be the project that it is if it weren't for the opposition to it. That, you know, there wouldn't be snake habitats on the side of the road. There wouldn't be,
right.
you know, there wouldn't be the creek realignment. There wouldn't be, so that made sense to me that it's not a win or lose sort of proposition always. There can be a compromise. I mean, for me.
But isn't that kind of almost the only way? I mean, and I bring it up because we were talking about Pan Am just before I think we started. I don't know if we were recording at that point, but we were talking about how we had another guest in the Lair that will be airing, PJ Mercanti, and how he was on a different side of Pan Am than you, and the two of you had some good Facebook fights.
Yeah.
Thing of some legend.
Which I learned a lot from too. You know?
Yeah, and I guess what I'm just getting at, Matt, and I asked PJ the same question. I said, you know, if all of us want the city to be what it can be, and it is definitely moving that way, and our end vision is not entirely dissimilar. We
Yeah.
want a vibrant downtown core. We don't want to do it at the expense of green fields and ecology. I mean, that wouldn't be his preference either. What it is a case-by-case situation. We differ on the methodology of getting there.
Yeah.
But can the discussion be done without the, you know, online snippy shit
No,
back and
I don't
forth.
think it can.
You think that that's
I
germane?
think it's absolutely unrealistic to say that if we're going to have another debate like that we're not going to beat each other's throats sometimes. Or, but I actually, to be honest, I don't think we can be so afraid of that kind of.
Well, it's not about
that
fear.
happens,
It's not about fear. It's about is there a more productive way?
Oh, sure. And there are definitely times where I've had to rein myself in and say what I
You've
just
reined
sent.
yourself
what
in?
Oh, yeah, no. I may seem like a total hothead sometimes, but honestly, I am constantly sending 5 minutes after I send an email, say, really, I went overboard on that. But you can't unsend an email. So sometimes.
May I share a recent conversation we had at Ray's Boathouse? The beginning of it? I won't if you don't want me to.
Yeah.
No, it was your opening salvo that you made when you walked in and saw who was sitting at the table.
Well. That's what it
No, but you said, I've been an asshole to each and every one of you. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I have never had a conversation start like that.
Well-
But it's because you're passionate, right? And you kind of, and maybe I've been one back, but it's because passion. I'm just wondering, you've had years of activism now. You've made some successful moves. You just
Yeah.
had the Minister of the Environment send you is personally accountable to you now through his staff, etc. You're making some serious gains as a credible activist and mover and shaker in your community.
Yeah.
So does that evolve, that discussion, that discourse?
Sure.
Is there something different?
I've learned a lot from mistakes I've made in the past. And I go forward sort of in this, and I make some of the same mistakes over and over again. But
So heated discussion, good debate,
Yeah,
solid.
I mean-
But those don't need to have personal attacks, right? Like there's no need. That doesn't
Yeah,
propel
I mean-
the argument forward. That doesn't make any real change, I don't think. Personally attacking people or their
yeah.
beliefs. I mean, listening to one side, listening to another side, everyone saying their opinion about what you're debating.
yeah.
But sometimes it gets a little bit
Nasty.
nasty.
Yeah, I don't like to be clear. I don't think personal attacks are a good thing. But at the same time, I'm not denying that. If me and PJ had those discussions, there were definitely times where I threw his privilege in his face, of
Yeah.
course, and there were times where he threw kind of
Your lack of
cheap
privilege
shots.
in your face.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, cheap
Well,
shots
and
that way. So I mean,
expensive
it's
shots,
a two-way
cheap
street
shots,
there.
they're both shots.
It's a two-way street, and to be fair, both PJ and I are both younger people. I know I can't kind of make that my excuse for much longer.
and
I'm
that
almost
was,
30.
but that was part of the conversation that I had with PJ, and we'll air. I'm not sure when we're going to air these different podcasts, but PJ's 30. You're
Yeah.
almost 30. I'm 38, so I'm a little ahead of you guys in that way. But we are all sitting around talking with passion and with
Yeah.
actual influence about our community.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that having a different opinion or a different approach is a good thing. But we could do more of this kind of talking, right?
Yeah.
Like just without all
Sure.
of the bullshit, without all the little secret, trench warfare tactics
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on. And
but the cliques, there seems to
Yeah.
be there's a lot of different cliques, and everyone has their groups, everyone has the people that they work with, but
you said off the top.
Well, me and the other people who are also right about everything.
Right.
we-
Yeah, seriously, back to
we
back
all
to-
hang out in
you
the
guys
same-
all hang out. I understand.
And off the top, you said when I asked you about why you thought I was going to trick you, you said I don't trust you, and I'm sure on some level that's true, and that might be appropriate. No, but you know what? People, I believe, say things even if they say them in jest. There's a little bit of truth there. Why
I
would you
don't trust
me?
Lauren, and I associate you with Lauren for some
Do you?
reason.
Because Lauren and I have known each
But
other
I've
for 6
actually this
months.
has changed a
8
little bit
months.
because I've seen you guys interact on Cable 14. You're often the voice of reason. I really do feel that way. I think you've got your back up against the wall, having a right of center former mayor as the host. I like the old host. I think they should bring him back.
He's running.
But-
He's on council now.
I know.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I
He's
liked him
busy.
at that position.
Yeah, Jay was
Don't
great.
tell Larry.
No, but I mean, and then you have Lauren, he makes no secret of being very conservative, and then sometimes you even have a third person on there like Shuttleworth or
Chuck McNally,
yeah,
yeah.
who. So in that sense, and Larry's comments about open data, which is something I'm kind of passionate about. I thought he was pretty unfair in his assessment on that, and I'm glad you called him out on. And
Well, I
that's what spurred me to send you an email for
and
the first time in
that.
a year and
you
say
know what?
good job.
And your email though said, sorry for the last
Yeah.
however much time I've been a jerk or something. Like,
Well,
this is the thing about you, right?
yeah.
Is that you run so hot and cold, it's fascinating to me. Like, you're in the Lair not because you discovered some barrels of toxic crap or
Yeah.
because, I mean, if anything, what I thought was most interesting was when you ran for mayor in university just for the political science
I never
experiment
went
of
to
it.
university.
Well, you ran for mayor, whatever, in lieu of spending money on university poli
Right.
sci, which I thought was fascinating. Why not spend $100, put yourself out there? I thought that was great. But you're here because you run hot and cold. Like, it's like hate, 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 love, 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 hate, 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 love, love, love. And I just think that
It's never fully on hate or, you know what I mean? I never...
I'm exaggerating to make the
Yeah.
point. But, you know, most people who are in positions of community engagement or civic activism who, you know, sort of stay more of a kind of a middle, and you don't. You're unapologetically in your face, and then you're apologetic, hey, we're buds again, then, you know, I like something I
Well-
heard on the air, we're friends, you're not that bad, Babcock, and then...
Part of it for me is that I think I've come at sort of political involvement differently than most people would. You know, running for mayor at 21, I've been kind of hanging out at City Hall since I was 18.
Do you consider yourself a politician?
Not like I'm not a politician until I get elected. So
But haven't you put that out there, though? In a bio, when our research team was prepping your bio, someone said that you had put out there that you were a politician?
I think maybe I had said politico before, which is
Okay.
maybe a bit of a different term.
Yeah.
But what I was sort of trying to get at is that, you know, through that process, I've been growing up while I'm in that some sort of weird local public spotlight of some sort, and not huge, but so I mean, absolutely, I've made like mistakes, and I'm usually pretty honest about when I do make a mistake. That
And
way,
we've all
right?
made- we've all
you
made
know,
mistakes.
Yeah, I mean,
I've just
you
never
have
seen-
no idea how many times me and Larry Deanny have gone from being at each other's throats to finally calming things down, and you know, and seeing things eye to eye. I mean,
So you mentioned Lauren, and it's interesting because Lauren and I really only got to know each other last September. It's what now, June?
Yeah.
And we become fast friends because we have a certain chemistry on the air. We like a good back and forth, and he's a unique, interesting guy. But you're associating me with my co-host on TV makes you not trust me. So,
see, I was kind of joking about the not trusting you thing. I
Yeah,
don't
well-
want you to take that too.
Well,
I'm sorry, Laura.
no
Can we be
apology.
cool again?
See, there we go. See, I'm more interested in the fact that you put that kind of stuff out there than I am whether or not you really mean it. I just
Well-
think it's fascinating that you throw it out.
Here's part of it too, is that I've learned, and Larry Deanny is the example I keep going back at, because I started out when him and I ran against each other for mayor. I was really opposed to him, what he stood for, the Red Hill Project, and I threw everything I could at him. Like, and when you're 21, you know, and you're not going to win the election, it's sort
Yeah,
of,
just
you
throw it
know,
out
you
there,
can
yeah.
you can kind of be, you know.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, and you know, so it was, I launched all these sort of kamikaze attacks against him.
Did you mean them?
At the time, for sure, I was 21. I was angry. I probably didn't understand everything there was about the process, and all I knew is that they were
Ward
ramming
Two.
a highway
I mean,
through a.
You just seriously came in second in a major ward race, right?
Yeah.
But
And you shaved your beard.
Yeah, you did. You cleaned up for it, which I thought was interesting.
Whatever happened to that?
More on that later.
He still has a beard.
Was that the sellout of Matt Jelly? We all wondered when we saw that photo of the Spec. Why'd you shave your beard?
It was actually kind of funny how it happened. The week before I put in my nomination, I had gone away to the cottage to really kind of make my final decision on it privately, and it's not the only time I've ever shaved my beard. I just sort of shaved a week earlier, and I got back and I was sort of, you know, I'd made my decision, put in my papers, and talking to my team, and I had this sort of week-long scruff going on, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
you're a big guy. You
one
put
of-
on that beard, you look like you should be cutting down trees somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Well, you not you,
Anything but
you put on a
planting
suit.
trees somewhere. I would prefer.
Right.
You put on a suit. You shaved your beard.
Yeah.
Your picture.
Yeah.
So it was kind
It
of-
was very different. Like
Yeah.
He cleaned up for the
It was
public
kind
office.
of, you know, and one of the folks working on my campaign said, so one thing you got to decide right now is what's happening with the beard. Do you have a beard? You don't have a beard?
But you know
'Cause I
what
had
was
this
fascinating
half beard.
was that you got free coverage and a color photo on
Right.
page 3 because of your stupid shaving job.
Yeah,
What is with that?
I don't know.
So-
No, and I
What
said
is-
this to
what-
Dan
what are you,
Nolan. Dan
Rasputin?
Nolan
Are
wrote
you
the piece.
Rasputin of the Hamilton media?
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
seriously, dude, let's just break this down, okay?
Yeah.
Because let me put my media hat on for a second here. You get way more coverage, like just a little lark from a few weeks ago about whether or not you may run in,
That was your fault.
That was,
Let's
a,
not
that was a little, it was a little lark, right? Which didn't do you any harm. But the thing is that the coverage that you get,
Yeah.
why does somebody who's never been a politician, who, for all intents and purposes, you were one of 20 people running in Ward 2, why do you get that kind of free coverage?
Well, on the Beard article specifically,
Yeah.
Dan Nolan did the piece. He called me up one day, and I like Dan a lot. I think he's a good reporter, and I think he's a more capable reporter than going out to chase some kid down to ask him about his beard. But he phoned me about this, and I said to him on the phone, I said, "You're writing an article about me shaving?"
Right.
And I said, "Are you, like, for real?"
But
Like,
why did he do it?
I don't know why he did, but the point is, like, I feel that the other candidates running in that race should have been furious about that.
They were. I'm sure.
I said that to Dan.
I'm sure
I said,
they were.
right, and
'Cause
you know
that
that, like, I mean,
But it spoke
I'm
to-
not going to hang up the phone on a reporter,
Hey,
but
dude, I'm not
like, I
suggesting
think
that
it's
you-
absolutely
but-
ludicrous
but-
that
but
they're
it's-
giving a candidate one
But why do
candidate
you
more
have that?
coverage
Why do you
than
have
another.
that? I bring up breastfeeding
Yeah, that's a
because
question for the Spec. Why they? Why,
Okay, but
you know.
project with me for a second here. It's not just about the Spec. What is it about Matt Jelly that makes you interesting?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, try. You must have thought about it.
I don't know if it's that I have a name that sticks out like a sore thumb and no one ever forgets.
Well, you can make good jokes around Jelly. There's
We
no-
already have
Okay.
your
Oh, what's
theme
this
song for the next
Jelly
time
from
you
the
run.
block.
No,
thing?
no.
No.
I got a way better one
You
than
ready?
that.
What is it?
Beyonce's Bootylicious.
Oh yeah.
I don't think
yeah.
you're ready, for this jelly.
I thought about covering it. I thought about covering it.
That's you need a bus blaring that.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? So yes, your name is funny, but you know what? So what? So is mine. But I'm just interested, Matt, because ever since you jumped on, don't even.
You just gave everyone.
I know.
mental picture
Imagine
there,
me in
yeah.
grade 8. Imagine me in grade 8. The song "One Night in Bangkok" came out. It was a rough year. All right, what I'm saying.
Everyone in the room has
Right.
cock on the mind.
Yeah, well, you know what? Didn't they already? Have you looked around the Lair? Look.
Can
there's
somebody
Mike, Monica.
can somebody pass me that
We've got-
waiver and I
no,
can
no.
just tear that?
Yeah. Okay, over there we have a former Argos cheerleader. Am I right, Andrea?
Yeah,
Right? Uh-huh.
and Tiger Cat.
And Tiger Cats
Whoa,
cheerleader.
there you go, represent.
We've got the one with the best legs in the world, Monica. We've got Mike, who's enjoying the view a little too much, and a couple of other very attractive people over there. Our producer, Daryl Laura. It's a good-looking room. So probably people were thinking about that anyway. But what
I
I'm
hate
trying-
to interrupt that.
It's okay. It's
that,
okay.
you know.
We had a good flow going, and we just got down to what people are really thinking. But what I'm saying to you, Matt, is that you have to, if you're looking at potential political future, which you were considering at some level with the fall election, you have a certain momentum, you have a certain recognition. There's a certain mystique that follows you.
Je ne sais
You've-
quoi?
Yeah, je ne sais quoi. You've never sat and tried to assess what that is? Because there were 20 other people running, people with more name recognition, longer pedigree in this community who did not get a color picture because they shaved their beard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of it. Okay. I mean, in terms of the election alone, I think part of it was the timeline that you know, I'd broken a pretty big story that summer on the toxic waste sites, and I think that had, more than anything I'd done before, had brought attention on me, and it was weird for me too because, you know, Susan Claremont did a profile on me, and there were parts of it I found like way too much. Like I just felt like it was too much about.
Well, you were compared to Michael Moore,
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, you know, and that's one thing. It was sort of there were.
Because you fight for the cause of the underrepresented?
I
Or
read-
because
I read your comment on the Hamiltonian.
Yeah.
I found the article, and you basically said, "Are you like, why are you comparing me to Michael Moore?"
and what was
Kind
their,
of, and I think more of that has to do with how I look than
Well, I was gonna say
necessarily
they're-
just what
they're-
I do. You know?
and I
It's like,
mean, you're a more attractive individual than Michael Moore.
thanks. Wow.
But you are.
That's
you,
the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me on a podcast. It's,
But you are a commanding presence. You're a big guy, right? You're tall, big guy. You're fighting for the cause of the little guy.
Yeah.
You seem to get in everybody's grill.
Yeah.
There are some. I mean, I think there are some sort of categorical sort of similarities there. I just don't. I don't know. It just feels weird to me that it's sort of like, well, you know, is he A, B, or C? He's C,
Right.
and it's sort of
Right.
like I just felt like I was
Yeah.
immediately being sort of.
People are trying to figure out how
Yeah,
to
Categorized.
they're
place you.
trying
It's
to
like-
pigeonhole you into
Yeah.
some kind
Do you
of
think you have a
stereotype.
chip on your shoulder?
Sure. Yeah, on both shoulders. Yeah.
And what? And because it feels like it. I mean, maybe we all do. I
Yeah.
probably have several. What is the chip from?
I think part of it is, I mean, you know, I grew up in the last 29 years of sort of watching Hamilton in its worst period of decline. I've seen downtown not be the focus. I think it is more now. I think people are.
Yeah.
I think generally there's a pretty mainstream desire to see downtown do well, and a mainstream acceptance that downtown's moving in a direction, that other than down. So.
So the chip is watching a city you love sink.
Yeah, and I mean,
But I mean,
that's part of
personally,
it. The
but-
chip is also seeing, things, the priorities that our city sets. That, for me, the stadium thing was infuriating. Not over location or where it should go, or mostly because it took up a year of
Yeah.
Yeah,
public
for sure.
discourse.
Oh, made me mental.
And even after that year, we still didn't have a stadium location.
Right.
And then it turns out it's going to Ivor Wynn, right? But it's not just that. It's that, is a stadium our top priority? Is it the most important, most pressing issue for all of council, for
So
how
what
many,
is
how
poverty
many people on
reduction,
staff?
downtown remediation, environmental?
It's all of those things. It's,
Okay.
I think, and in the same year we had, the Code Red series come out of the Spec,
Yeah.
and absolutely visualized, the problem for us in Hamilton.
So you've got a chip on your shoulder because you've seen the city making bad decisions most of your life, right?
I've just seen a lot of people, not even just the city of Hamilton as the corporation of the city of Hamilton, like I've seen a lot of Hamiltonians take their eye off the ball of what I feel, it's not just what I feel should be a priority, what I see should be, even aside from politics, should be a priority, that when you can show that there's a 20 year life difference in life expectancy between one part of town and another. Why is that? What are we doing wrong?
So do you have is one of the chips on your shoulder one because you didn't come from privilege and you think that people who maybe have power
Well,
are putting in the wrong
I came
place?
from pretty much a working class family. I don't necessarily. I will say for sure. I grew up in a pretty good house in terms of, like, we didn't have boatloads of money, but I had parents that I'd say did everything in their power to raise me and my brother in a good way. And it's sort of like it's not even a personal thing for me there. It's that I know so many people that I grew up with, that I see every day, and I live right downtown. I see every day that are from definitely a less privileged place,
But when you talk about
and
people
all I
making
see
decisions-
that most people are doing about that is complaining about it.
Right.
And I see a lot of really crude comments on the Spectator's website, especially.
What about Poverty Roundtable? Is it effective? Is it doing what it needs to?
I think it's well-meaning, and I think time will tell if something comes out of that really addresses the problem in a meaningful way.
But how much time? It's
But
been
I think
going on for years.
I don't think necessarily just another committee of totally well-meaning people, or just I think it's got to become more than just something that we can delegate to a committee.
See, when I hear well-meaning, I hear ineffective.
No, I mean that all of, like, Tom Cooper, I think is a wonderful guy, and I think the folks I think they are genuinely interested in making a difference, and I'm not saying whether they will or they won't.
So why do you care so much about things?
It's the world I live in. It's the city I live in. I
You care about the environment.
Yeah.
You care about poverty, even though you didn't come from a poor background. You care passionately about old buildings, but you're not an architect. I mean, where does all this care come from? Why do you care so much about things?
I don't know.
Issues.
It started for me. It started for me in high school, and I did a project on downtown renewal. I was in politics class I had, and that's what sort of planted that seed for me. And honestly, for me, what motivates me is when I see a problem, and just kind of practically wondering why. When I looked at the Lister block in 2004, why was it sitting vacant for 10 years and no one's doing anything about it? Not just vacant, but it's like in rapidly deteriorating condition. You've got kids going in there starting fires. Like, why is that? Same thing with the toxic waste sites. I seriously, I stumbled across, 2 toxic waste
How do you
sites.
stumble across?
Well, one of them-
I walk down the street, I look to my right, I see barrels of crap. I don't decide to launch a 3-year
Well,
campaign against the Ministry of the Environment.
There was some lead up to that. We did the bylaw crawl thing last year.
But how did you
after
even get involved with the bylaw crawl? Like, what is it about Matt Jelly that says, I need to get up in the morning and do a bylaw crawl?
Well, there's the bylaw. You do the bylaw walk. You do the garbage crawl as well, right?
Yeah, it's mostly garbage crawls these days because the bylaw crawl thing was intended to sort of get the city to do their job. It's not the job of volunteers to go and do the work of bylaw officers. So we did that for as long as we needed for the city to change the policy, which they did. They have a registry for vacant buildings. I don't know. I don't know why I
is
care.
your
It's just
family?
to me, it's just very natural.
When you
that-
sit down at
yeah.
holiday dinners with your family,
Yeah.
and they say, "What are you up to these days, Joe?" I'm up to this. What are you up to these days, Matt?
Who's
oh,
Joe?
bylaw. Well, someone in your family. What are you up to these days, Matt? Bylaw crawls. I'm fighting with the environment minister about barrels on this land. I'm working. I mean, where does the passion? And someone in the peanut gallery over here, Monica, said passion. Sure, it's passion. But what's the root of that? What do you think in your background makes you want to put your name and your effort and even cause fights over these things?
Well, you put yourself up for attack, right?
Yeah,
That's
why
when
do you
put
throw
yourself out
yourself in
like
there?
that.
Well, part of it, I guess on heritage, 1976, which is before I was born, obviously, but they tore down all of York Street, the urban renewal stuff that happened. I mean, my dad used to run a service station on York Street in sort of 63-ish, around then. And I guess I grew up with all of Brian Henley's books, all of Bill Manson's books. I grew up with parents who cared about local history, I guess. I mean, that was their interest. Not ever to the point that, like, my folks are pretty reserved people. Not ever to the point that they would be activists on any of that stuff, but they
Are they proud of you?
I think so. I won't speak for them. But, they've told me that my family's been super supportive of what I'm doing. At first, I'll be honest. When I ran for mayor at 21, my mom didn't understand what that was all about.
Is this a phase or?
Yeah, really. I mean,
This is different, Kids
that
want to
was
do a lot of
scary
things.
for
This is
them at
different.
first because it's like they also have the last name Jelly, so
Well,
it's
it
like
puts
they
you
can't
out there,
escape
right?
that.
Yeah,
I get
for
politically
sure.
involved or publicly involved. So, and that's always like I always think of that. I don't want this ever to reflect poorly on them. So that you think I'm a hothead now, I'd be way worse if it weren't for having carrying.
Well, I never called
know.
you a hothead. I just.
No. I know I'm calling myself a hothead, but I don't know with them.
Are you proud of the work you've been able to do?
Some of it. So there are lots of things that I think I could have done better, or I could have done more, or gotten more
So
involved in something.
how do you pay the bills?
I'm a graphic designer. I do freelance work, and even as a freelancer, I do like on the weekend. I was a simulated patient kind of thing. Like for a friend of mine does.
Where you pretend to be the patient.
Yeah,
for
she's
students,
sort of. Some friends of mine are involved with sort of acting students.
So
and
you
that
have
kind
sort of a
thing, so-
patchwork of economic revenue streams.
Yeah.
To support your
no mistake.
activism.
I've been under the poverty line for 10 years, and it doesn't faze me, and it doesn't like I'm not ever out of food, or and I always have an apartment to stay
Well,
at.
isn't
It's
sort
not-
of 1 in 6
but-
people in the city under that same line?
Yeah, and I like. I don't know. Some people might stigmatize that. I don't. I just
You live your life and.
Yeah, and I don't like, to be honest, what I do, and as long as I got Wi-Fi, I'm happy. I don't like. I don't.
That was one of
I
his
don't
criteria
need.
for coming to the Lair. No, so one of our producers said the next guest wants to know if this is a Wi-Fi friendly Lair.
Is it?
Of course
Okay.
it is. Yeah. Exploit our free internet. We won't tell you where we are. We trust that
But-
you're not going to tell
But
anyone.
that's it. I guess maybe I'm a bit different than the other folks, but like, and I don't really have like a wife or kids or any or a car, or like I don't have a
Do you
driver's
expect
license.
that you will
So,
someday have all those trappings of modern?
I don't know. I can't say how like that mindset might change for the time being. Absolutely not. Like,
So what's your future, do you think?
I don't think about that too much, really. I don't think about whether I'm going to start a family or not. It's not a priority for me at this point at all.
What about even in terms of your career? Is a career in your future, or is
Yeah, I think
the work-
I'm still trying to figure out whether that's political someday. I mean, the big concern for me is I like to be myself and not have to edit myself too much, which
What's that?
I'm going for him.
You're voting for him. You've already converted the Lair peanut gallery.
that's why I made sure to shake everyone's hand.
And you made a point of telling me I shook everyone's hand. Laura.
Yeah. I see I'm learning. Yeah.
Hey, I'm no expert on this stuff, right?
It's tough because like some of my idols are people like Jon Stewart and Lenny Bruce or Bill Maher, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like
Isn't it funny we share the same
That's-
idols?
Maybe you
weird.
guys have a lot more in common.
I have
than
more.
you're
I have
saying.
other Tilly at the market.
She will slap your hand. Okay.
I think for the record,
You should
I
see the
think for the record,
Yeah.
and you can use this in an attack
Please.
ad someday.
Dude, why would I bother doing an attack?
I
ad?
think Tilly should be able to hit whoever she wants.
You know what? I tweeted today. What's with the drama at the Hamilton market? It's food, people. Seriously, leave
Well,
this
But
old
should
lady
food's pretty
people
alone.
important,
be able
though, I
to
mean-
touch their
No, but
produce before they buy it?
point. My point is,
you cannot. I know in Europe, you are not.
So Monica's saying in Europe
touch?
you
The
can't
thing
touch
is
the produce
Tilly,
before you buy
there's
it.
no question in my mind, Tilly probably shouldn't slap people.
yeah.
At least it
But
wasn't
she's
across the
82
face.
But-
years old.
A
Come
backhand
on.
across the
But
face.
she's 82 years old.
Right.
And it's sort
She's
of
a
like.
fixture at the market.
But it's also
Let her go.
what the punishment is. They said it's a 30-day suspension, which is actually 30 market days. So 2
Oh no,
months.
that's a lot.
2 months
It is
of
a lot.
livelihood for an 82-year-old, a
Right,
senior
right.
citizen. And it's sort of, I question.
It's crazy.
What was the process that led to that decision being made? Were there witnesses to the altercation?
Yeah.
You know, they've got a zero tolerance policy. I loved Tilly's quote that, I don't know, maybe I did, maybe I didn't.
Yeah. But you know what?
But I think-
shouldn't there be some factors? Shouldn't we look at the specific context and say
Exactly.
this is an 82-year-old woman? She's been at the market a long time. I'm sure she didn't cause bodily harm to that individual. It was inappropriate for her to do that. So say, pardon the pun, a slap on the wrist, Tilly. Don't do it again. But to take away her livelihood.
Maybe it was
you
more
know?
like a love tap.
So
rather
here's
than
are
a
you
slap.
gonna fight the cause of Tilly?
Well, tomorrow morning there's actually going to be a protest at the market. It's at 7 a.m. when it opens.
And are you running the protest?
No.
Are you a powerful person to know? Do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, because if you see
it depends
something,
because I
but
wonder.
if you see something and it pisses you off, it's an injustice. You can mobilize. Isn't that power?
I think it really depends on the issue. A, whether I'm able to mobilize people, and B, if I bring more harm to the cause than I can help. Because
It's an excellent question.
because I wonder that because sometimes it's sort of like I've made my views known on a lot of different sort of issues. So
People
if
might
I
not
get
be ready
involved
for
in
that jelly.
if I get involved in a heritage issue, even does that make a certain segment of folks say, well, he's the guy? It's their perception that he's the guy that wants to save every building, which I think reasonably I've become more. I think I've refined my sort of strategy on heritage buildings. I don't think ever that the city of Hamilton alone should be an investor in something like St. Mark's is the example everyone brings up, and for good reason because we've been sitting on it for 20 years or
But one of
whatever
the
it is.
reasons why we invited you for this chat was the very thing that you're getting at, is that it's too easy when you've had a high-profile position on a high-profile contentious issue to be pigeonholed forever as that guy.
Yeah.
Right? And it makes you less effectual, perhaps.
Yeah.
People might gravitate towards the power base that you possess, but it might make people might write off your opinions just because of
Yeah.
that. One of the reasons why we're doing this Laircast is simply because I think people are more interesting and more diverse than any single position or any single job that they've ever had. People, whether you're a PJ Mercanti or Larry Diani or Lord and Lieberman, there's a passion there, there's an
Yeah.
engagement there that I respect. And I respect you, and I'm glad you could come in the Lair.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
Chats in the Lair is a Power Group production. Visit us at powergroup.ca or laircast.com or check us out on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.